is Ohio State ready to win the whole damn thing? And I think this is a really interesting question because I think you look at this matchup with Ohio State and Texas, and I think these two head coaches, Ryan Day and Steve Sarkisian, are two of the more maligned guys in big games. A lot of people don't believe in them. But again, what have we talked about all year long with Ohio State football? How much pressure Ryan Day and Chip Kelly were under. I think they answered a lot of questions. With this run through the college football playoff so far, the absolute ass whooping that they put on Oregon. Now you run into the best team you faced all year. Now you run into the best defense you faced all year, the deepest roster, the most talent, the best offense that this Ohio State Buckeyes defense has faced. Is this Bucs defense ready to go up against Sark's offense? I think it is. Do you trust Ryan Day? Buck fans, that's what we need to talk about. And I know we have a ton of Ohio State representation on the show. Let's get it going in the comment section. Do you trust Ryan Day in a massive situation? Any way you slice it, this is a huge game. Jake, do you trust Ryan Day to get the job done against Texas?
I don't fully trust him. I love what he did against Oregon. I love the way the team came out. I loved the scheme. I loved how aggressive they were. That's exactly how the Ohio State offense needs to play to have success. But the thing that concerns me, or maybe the thing that I'm just personally not over yet, is how they've showed up in other big games. And it's kind of that deal where it's like, hey, you did it once, but now I want you to do it again. And I want you to show me that against a really, really game Texas team that you can come out and you can, put them in the same position you put Oregon in, because I would say that Oregon probably has typically most weeks, every other week of the season, except when they played you. They're a really physical team that is capable of stopping the run and putting you in obvious, passing situations, 3rd and 7+ type situations. And I think if you're not careful, Texas will do the same thing to you. But I think the one thing that I took away from the Texas ASU game was that Texas is a little bit vulnerable. Texas is not that team that is just a cold-blooded killer until they absolutely have to be, until they're in overtime and it's 4th and 13 and they're fighting for their life. So my sneaking suspicion is that Ohio State will come out and they will play a good game and Ryan Day is going to have a nice day. But there's just that little part of me where I'm like, hey, man, is Ryan Day going to come out in this game and flop? Because that's what you've shown me that you're prone to doing. And it's really hard for me just to ignore, the just those games where the team just is not engaged and locked in. So do I trust Ryan Day? Not 100%. No. Do I think they're going to have a good day? Yes, I do. I like 70% of me feels like this is going to be probably a 7 to 10 point victory if that same Ohio State team shows up. I think at the end of the day, if that team shows up, you're probably looking at a 7 to 10 point victory for Ohio State. But again, who shows up?
Yeah, we shall see. Salty Virginia Peanuts. D-Rock, thanks for the emoji warning. You got timed out.
Dude, emojis are nothing to play with, bro.
Easily the most stupid thing about the Monty Show. I have nothing to do with that. I'm not the one that times you out or whatever you're saying. This has been a thing on this show for years, bro. Dude. If you comment, and we've talked to Google/YouTube, which is really difficult to do, by the way, but we had a kind of a question and answer session with our YouTube rep. If you post only emojis in a comment, 9 out of 10 times YouTube's going to look at that as spam. And if you do it repeatedly, you get, I don't know, whatever you call it, filtered, timed out, whatever it is. I'm not sure what exactly happens, but we have no say over that. We have our comment filter is, you probably don't care about this. We have a setting that we choose. We are on moderate. We are not easily read the comment section. Our comment section is not heavily moderated by YouTube. You can say a lot of things, but when you post only emojis, they view it as spam. We have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
That is not us. So there you go. Oak State James says summary. Okay.
What the hell does that mean?
Okay. The awkward guy, I believe Sark is, I believe in Sark. I just don't believe in Quinn. Well,
that's another part of the conversation.
And I think this is a really important point. Quinn Ewers versus Will Howard. Who do you want? You guys know on this show, I'm all team Will Howard. I believe in Will. I think Will is a phenomenal quarterback.
Stay hard.
Is Quinn Ewers. This is a very Ashton Ginty, Cam Scatterbo. Is Quinn Ewers the better NFL prospect? On paper, build, body set, absolutely he is. I'll take Will Howard. Because I think Will Howard has shown us what I think he grew and learned from the Ohio State debacle early in the season at Oregon. I think he showed us that in big games, he shows up constantly. He isn't the guy, and I should knock on wood here, but he's not the guy that floats lame ducks over the middle in a playoff game that allows teams back into the contest.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Ewers has done that repeatedly, including against Scatterbo and Dilly.
Yeah, I think for me, that was the most impressive part of the Ohio State win over Oregon, is that it wasn't like you were just turning around and handing it off early in that game and you just ran all over him. Now, obviously, later in the game you did, but early in that game, you took shots and you were hitting on those shots. And that's the crazy part is that it was simply just making great play after great play. So, again, that's why I think it's really hard when the question is, hey, like, who do you trust? What do you think is reliable in this game? What I think is reliable is what we know Sark's offense to be. A bunch of confusion, a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of deception. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see from Ohio State. I think you're going to see a commitment to the run early and seeking, those big opportunities to run play action and bomb it down the field. Make them show you they can stop Jeremiah Smith because Oregon couldn't.
Okay, so Salty Virginia Peanuts is saying that he used, what did you say here? That it was a bunch of emojis, and it was a bunch of, what did you say? It was a bunch of clover leaf emojis attached to text. No, it was not, because I can see what your filtered comment is now, and I can tell you that you had no text in there. You had the letter D, a rock, and 8 clovers, and then 4 more exclamation points. You're using, bro. This is age old now.
You're trying to tell people who YouTube every day how it works. Dude.
I know what the rules are.
With all due respect, I just don't understand why you're arguing this point, dude.
Yeah, I what I'm telling you is if you use a bunch of repetitive characters and a bunch of emoji, you're going to get filtered. YouTube does that repeatedly. We have no control over it. So I'm just telling why would I want to filter comments or block people?
Yeah, that's not good for us, dude.
Do some mathing.
Yeah.
If fewer people watch the show or fewer people comment, what does that do to our show? Less engagement, less algorithm. Why would I do that? That's why we don't block. That's why I don't block people on X. I just don't read notifications. It's why I don't block people on YouTube. It's bad for business. It's bad for business. The Stadium Guy, James Sunbury, I picked Ohio State in September. My comments are on my channel. So paying $5 to self-aggrandise.
It's going to be like this.
It's going to be this kind of day, I feel
like.
Howard is the best pick in the portal. He was the lead, the Ohio State. He will lead the Ohio State to a national championship. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
YouTube user, Salty Peanuts, you continue to argue against Notre Dame. Who's arguing? Exactly what will you do when they make the championship game? What will you do if they win it? What is? I'm not arguing against Notre Dame. I picked Notre Dame in just about every game this year. I picked them over Texas A&M. In the playoff, I picked them against Indiana. I told you to be a close game against Georgia. Shockingly, it was not. But what have I said about Notre Dame all season long? My opinion on Notre Dame has not changed.
Yeah.
What's my opinion been?
Yeah, your opinion's been that obviously they're defensive. They've got an elite defense, and Riley Leonard is a liability. And so, when you combine Riley Leonard and his inability to throw the ball down the field and throw the team to a win, When you combine that factor with Marcus Freeman's seemingly inability to manage the game in big moments, that doesn't work out well for Notre Dame.
And what did I say the other day about Marcus Freeman? The Georgia game was the first time I saw him make philosophical changes, make good X's and O decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hard count thing, against Georgia was really interesting. We've never seen that. I would call that trickery out of Marcus Freeman, where your team is prepared, because you got to practice that a little bit, right? Like, your team's got to be prepared to go out and run that, and they did, and he deserves credit. But I don't think that I would disagree. I don't think you've argued against Notre Dame.
No.
I just think that you don't believe that Riley Leonard, or let me put it this way. You believe that at some point Notre Dame's going to have to throw their way to a win. And when that time comes, Riley Leonard's not going to be able to deliver.
If you're Penn State, why would you not stack to stop the run and make Riley Leonard throw the ball down the field to beat you? Because our best running back is hurt in Jeremiah Love. Riley Leonard's your best running back. You don't have a best quarterback.
Right.
So what you call picking against Notre Dame, you're emotional about it. I'm not emotional about it. I am very analytical when it comes to sports.
Yeah. I just don't think it's rocket science or some hot take to say that Riley Leonard's inability to throw the football down the field is a liability for Notre Dame. You're essentially, you're literally going into the college football playoff. And this speaks to how good the defense is, by the way.
Yeah.
But you're literally going into the college football playoff with one arm tied behind your back offensively because you thought it was a good idea to go out and bring a guy in who played one great game against you at Duke. Like, that's the problem.
I would love nothing more than to go to bed on Thursday night knowing Notre Dame is going to go to the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I would love nothing more than that. I don't believe that I can say that. And I've tried 10 different ways. This defense at Notre Dame is better than Penn State's defense.
Agreed.
Drew, it pains me to say this out loud. Drew Aller's a better quarterback than Riley Leonard. He's a better quarterback than Riley Leonard. I don't know how else I can I can say that. I really don't. Here you go. Buddy of mine who works in sports media. Why are you giving this ass clown airtime? You've said that.
Jesus.
You've said the same thing over and over about Marcus Freeman and his lack of D on toes or ability to count to 10. I'm tired of hearing that, but never once have I heard you say that Notre Dame sucks or can't win the game. I've said the same.
Yeah.
The D on toes thing, my guy, the D on toes thing is a little much. Yeah. I've said Marcus Freeman can't count past 10, and I was really disappointed against Ohio State last year. But I also said this is that win against Georgia is the first time I've seen him change his philosophy, his X and O's.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big piece of development. So am I picking Notre Dame to win this game? I can't find a way where I see them scoring more than a field goal better than Penn State. And the thing that really worries me is what happens when Riley Leonard gets hit, because he is going to have to stand in the pocket and deliver the football. And the thing that worries me more, Penn State is one of the elite backside pursuit defenses in college football. Those guys, say what you want about James Franklin, that defense doesn't stop running.
Yeah.
They're going to pursue that quarterback mercilessly. And Riley Leonard's a guy who, if you hit him and hit him and hit him, he's going to get hurt. He's shown you that in his career. What happens when he gets hurt in that game? Do I think Notre Dame can win the game? I do. Do I think they will? I don't. Because I don't trust Riley Leonard.
Formula is unchanged for Notre Dame. It's
Simple
unchanged.
as that.
If you're Notre Dame, you understand who Riley Leonard is, but at the same time, your defense has to put out. I can't say this enough. Like, your defense has to create turnovers. What did we see in the Georgia game? The Georgia game got unhinged when Notre Dame got the turnovers. And if they do that, they win. If they do not do that, they lose.
I want Notre Dame to win this game.
Yeah.
Desperately. But if you are any kind of Notre Dame fan, should we believe that they will? What would make us believe that they will? I think their defense is better than Penn State's defense.
Well, what I was going to say is what makes me think that they will win the game is I do think that they'll turn Drew Aller over, and I think that he's shown a willingness against the best defenses he's played to turn it over, and I also think he's not a huge arm quarterback. So when you're talking about and I can't remember his name, highest ranked safety of all the college football playoff games last week being on Notre Dame's defense.
Aiden Schuler.
Yeah, Aiden Schuler. You're sitting here asking Drew to take shots against a defense that's got one of the best safeties in college football. And I'm just telling you, in these big games, you're talking about national TV, best defense in college football, and we expect the Penn State offense to somehow put out 21 points against his defense. Sorry, dude, I don't buy it. And so to me,
I don't think so either.
This comes right back to what I said and what we talked about with the Georgia game. You turn them over, you're going to be in a really great place. But if you don't create any extra possessions for Riley Leonard in that offense, you're going to struggle to win this game. And that's the hard part.
And I think if we can get RJ Oben, if we can get Jack Kaiser, certainly Junior Tuihalamaka is having a month of his life.
Yeah, that defense is playing their best football at the correct time.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
And they are a very good defense at Notre Dame. D-Rock. I think D-Rock would. I don't know what D-Rock. You're probably our biggest Notre Dame fan in the comment section, but I haven't changed my mind at all. I want to see Young to run the ball at least a few times versus Penn State. You've got to find. Here's the problem with the running game right now is that I think if Jeremiah Love can't play, I think your best running game is Mitchell Evans, who is going to be an NFL tight end. You need to, if Jeremiah Love cannot play, you've got to throw. Mitchell Evans has to be just exponentially more part of the offense. He cannot have 3 catches if Jeremiah Love is not going to be 75%. He's got to have 5-6 catches because he's a very good player.
And just for clarity on Jeremiah, just looking at the updates, the coverage from the guys who are at practice watching Notre Dame.
He wore a knee brace.
Was absolutely practicing, but he's not able to. He's not 100% and not going to be close.
He can't. The problem is it's his right. I believe it's his right knee.
Yeah, it is.
The problem is that is his foot in the ground leg. So the left side of Notre Dame's offensive line has not been good for certainly during the playoffs. It's been the weak point.
Right.
He can't put his right foot in the ground and pivot to the B gap. And the offense at Notre Dame is predicated on winning the B gap. If you watch their biggest plays, they usually come through the B gap.
Yeah.
Us do not, our explosiveness does not come off the right edge. So that's what concerns me.
Yeah.
And I think your number 2 back is Jadarian Price, but he's probably your best option. Your best running back, I think, no matter what, is probably going to be Riley Leonard. But I'm telling you right now, Mitchell Evans has to be a huge part of the offense. There's just no other way to, you know what I mean? Like there's no other way to spin it. Riley Leonard's got to throw the ball on the hash to Mitchell Evans. Has to. That's the Faison. I just don't think you have a quarterback to utilize Faison as much as you'd like.
Yeah.
I think pre-snap, you're going to have to motion guys. I think that quick little toss on motion is the sweeps. You're going to have to do that. Play action. The other thing is, are we going to have Riley Leonard under center, or are we going to do this stupid crap in the pistol that Notre Dame's been trying? Because I don't want anything to do with that. Why the pistol is a thing when you can't throw the ball down the field, I'll never understand the pistol offense when you have a quarterback who can't throw the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Because the pistol absolutely destroys play action. And Notre Dame needs play action. So, Salty, he fielded 10 men last year against Ohio State. And not once, multiple times. And again, what I've said about Marcus Freeman this year that has driven me crazy, how many times are we running an 11th guy onto the field or making a personnel change at the very last second? How many times has this elite defense been in the wrong formation when the ball is snapped? And it stopped largely in the playoff. You haven't seen. What drives me crazy is you'll have linebackers readjusting defensive linemen, or you'll have Tuihalamaka trying to like get inside, or you'll be moving guys around when the ball is snapped. Notre Dame too often has not been set and not been ready to fire when the offense snaps the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame's defense has repeatedly during this season not been set and ready to fire when their offense snaps the ball. And they're still making big plays. So why has the defense gotten better? Because they're more well prepared. And I think schematically, the X's and O's of this defense have not changed a bit. What's changed? The focus pre-snap, the communication. You're looking at down ahead, so there's not as much shifting and personnel changing. And that's why this defense has been in much better position. Gap integrity has been far better. The Georgia game, if you go look at Georgia's attempts to run, I don't think I saw maybe 3 times a Notre Dame defensive back overrun an angle against Georgia. Maybe 3 times. You go back and you look at some of the biggest plays Notre Dame gave up. It is, and Jack Kaiser's guilty of this. It's Jack Kaiser taking far too aggressive of a line, and there's no way to stop the cutback. Or you just had these moments. We haven't seen that during the playoff, which is why I've said I've seen Marcus Freeman schematically and philosophically change into the deeper run here in the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So we can sit here and we can go back and forth, but is what it is. Craig Kitchen, good morning. You say Ohio State Ryan Day doesn't show up for big games besides Michigan. I believe they have. Were they ready for clock management against Oregon? And I would remind you, there's only one game during the year that matters. And he doesn't win that game. And that's the Michigan game.
Yeah.
And he has not won that game. You can't repeatedly lose to Michigan. They win a national championship. You keep losing to them. They get decimated on the roster. You're one of the best teams in the country. And you lost to Michigan.
Ow.
You allow Michigan to plant a flag. How? And then the thing that makes me crazy about Ryan Day is then you show that team against Oregon. Where was that team against Michigan? Were you not jacked for the Michigan game? How did you show up like that last week against Oregon? And I'll ask the exact same question. How did you show up like that against Michigan?
That's what I'm saying. The week of preparation is where the problem is. It's not the day of.
I would agree with that. Feeling salty today? I am not. Stymie. If you actually watch Notre Dame play this year, you know the special teams offside versus Georgia was not a fluke. You know Leonard takes shots every week, and you know Love is perfectly fine. Well, we'll see. I
just think you have more faith than we do.
The special team, the trickery is not new. The execution, the attention to detail, that's what's new.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame is not largely a different team. Notre Dame's not. The attention to detail in massive moments. That special teams play, and what we're talking about is Notre Dame's on the field to punt. They run the entire unit off the field. The offense comes back on. They're never snapping that football. but they draw Georgia offside to get the first down. The detail in that moment, and especially it's a pressure cooker moment, the detail is what had been missing in biggest moments. And when you don't play a tough schedule, as Notre Dame did not this year, you're living on that Ohio State 10 men on the field because it was repeatedly 10 men on the field, more than once. You're living on, like if you go back and you look at the penalty chart and you ask yourself, bro, like how is Bryce Young in the neutral zone more than once against Georgia? How is he in the neutral zone? Not once, but twice that game.
How many times are you going to run into the kicker, bro?
How many times is he going to run into the kicker? Not once, twice. Those are the little things that you're like, okay, we're seeing development, and we are seeing development. And we're seeing the details get cleaned up. But there's still room to be better. This team has to dominate defensively and on special teams.
And I think they will against Penn State.
I
think Penn State's offense is not lethal enough to overcome that defense.
I agree with that.
My problem is I think Notre Dame beats Penn State. I think there's a chance they beat them by 10 points because they're going to get points off turnovers. And then the problem is if you get to the national championship game, I think there's a chance you lose by 10 because you're going to play an offense that is just simply the best offense you've seen all year.
And so, I'll just continue to say what I've said about Notre Dame. And then I want to take your comments because I talk too much. This defense is physical. We tackle better than any other defense in the country. Notre Dame, and I shouldn't say it out loud, Notre Dame doesn't miss tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame is fast. They're secondary. They're linebackers. They all play downhill. And you've seen them clean up the angles and the aggressiveness to the gap, not past the gap, right? This is all going to come down to Riley Leonard's ability to throw the football beyond 7 yards. That's how you're going to win or lose the game. Because defensively, we're going to show up. We're going to be in the right place. We're going to make big plays. I think we're going to hit Aller.
We show up.
I think you're right. I think if Notre Dame scores a defensive touchdown, Penn State's going to have an impossible time winning the game. But all that is predicated on Riley Leonard completing the ball beyond 7 yards.
And I still don't want to forget, because it didn't really show itself too much in the Georgia game. Riley Leonard tends to play really tight football in the first 3 possessions. He tends to, they're again, to what Stymie said, quote, if you've watched Notre Dame football this year, you damn well know that he squeezes early in the game until he gets settled.
And no, Jeremiah Love is not perfectly fine.
No.
If you've watched Notre Dame football, why is he wearing a brace? And I'm pretty certain you saw what I saw. Homeboy tried to cut back to the left off that right foot. His knee collapsed, and he didn't come back in the game.
Yep.
Shows up at practice this week, or at least the video that I watched in practice, with a brace on that right knee.
And unable to plant.
If he was perfectly fine, why is he wearing a brace on his right knee?
Now, it's commendable to be wearing a brace and probably have a ruptured ACL in your knee. That's commendable. I respect dude for that. I think that's phenomenal. I think that Jeremiah is everything you want a running back to be.
8.1 yards per carry against the best teams they saw this year.
So what you're not going to see him do this week, in my opinion, is you're not going to see him catching balls in the flat this week. You're not going to see them asking him to do things that are incredibly athletic and require him to be out on the edge, leveraging his body. You're going to see him running power concepts in the A and the B gap, and that will be the extent of his use, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because he's limited with the knee.
Because I don't watch Notre Dame football. What did I just say?
Yeah. I mean, the penalties were, and again,
big penalties.
Again, you also had, and it needs to be said, and I know we talked about it last week, but the bye week Russ situation, you had 10 penalties, and Georgia didn't really take advantage of them. That's not going to happen with Penn State. You get 10 penalties, 12 penalties against Penn State, that's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah. WW. I think Ohio State's the best team this season. Right now, I would agree. But what? But I desperately want to see Texas win just so I can enjoy the meltdown over Ryan Day among their...
That's what I'm talking about. See, that's that proper energy right there. I'm here for that.
Okay, and one of the reasons that I love Ohio State fans so much is there is actual analytical emotion. It's not just, oh, Will Howard farted in the meeting, we're done. Like it's you want to know the example of this? I said on the show that it really bothered me that Ryan Day didn't pull Jack Kaiser off, or didn't pull his name just went right out of my head. Didn't pull his players off the field and didn't do more. I don't know, win the game to stop Michigan from planting the flag.
Yeah.
And Ohio State fans showed up in the comment section and said he should be fired. He should never coach the playoffs. And I agree with that. If I had been the athletic director at Ohio State, there's a real good chance I'd have had a pack your shit and get out conversation with Ryan Day after that Michigan game. Because it doesn't matter.
Pack everything up. We're out of here.
It doesn't matter what you do. If you can't beat Michigan, you didn't have the season you should have had. You're exponentially better than Michigan this year, and you still lost at home.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. The problem is you don't have today's day and age in college football doesn't allow you to just fire guys like Ryan Day because they lost to Michigan.
Jack Sawyer, thank you.
Yeah, Jack Sawyer.
God,
the problem is that, and I've been saying this since the beginning of the season, Ryan Day makes you so much damn money that he can afford to lose to Michigan every year and he won't get fired because of that. Because everyone wants to hold this $20 million NIL number over Ryan Day's head. How do you think they're able to afford $20 million a year?
And easily afford it.
Oh, that's right. Because he's one of the most winningest coaches in the program's history. He's one of the best coaches in college football.
Because there's expectations every year. Because he takes you
again,
not far enough, but far enough.
Yeah. And so Ohio State fan, I empathize. I get it. You're in the worst spot in sports. We always talk about it with several different teams. Hey, you're in the playoff every year.
You're good. You're not great.
You're just not over the hump yet. And no, it does not help that last year Michigan won a national championship. That doesn't help the conversation.
No, it doesn't.
So I think for Ryan Day's sake, I would agree with the people who are saying, hey, this is his best chance in 5 years to win a national championship. And I agree with what you said. The versus the Longhorns is the national championship game.
Yep.
And I think whoever wins that game is going to go on to win a national championship, and they're going to go on to win it handily. And so I'm just telling you guys, this is the one for Ryan Day. Show up like you did against Oregon. Bring that heat. Bring that energy. I haven't heard, and maybe I missed it. I haven't looked, but I want to see more junk out of Jeremiah Smith. I want to see him talking because he talked, then they went and backed it up. And Oregon did exactly what Jeremiah Smith said they would do. They played man coverage on him, and he burned them repeatedly. So that's the kind of energy I think Ohio State has to bring to this Texas game.
Yep.
And I think that, for Notre Dame fan, you can spend your time worrying about Jeremiah Love's knee and Riley Leonard's shortcomings, or you can focus on how to win the game. Winning the game is create turnovers on defense, be disciplined on offense, and you're going to be just fine. Like that. That's all you have to do against Penn State.
And all I'm saying is these two defenses are very close, especially against the run. And Penn State loves to run the football. And I would just point out, the best defense, in my opinion, left against the run is Ohio State. I think the best total defense is Texas. I think the second best total defense, Notre Dame or Ohio State, and I think it's really close.
Well, the way I would put it is which defenses are playing the best football? Yeah, Ohio State's defense had a nice day against Oregon, but I think when you look at like gritty games, yeah, I think Notre Dame's defense is the best defense left in the playoff. And I only say that because Texas's defense was very questionable in the ASU game. There were multiple times where I was like, hey, like, what was the thought running, 0 there? What was the thought? Like, what are we doing here or there that led to these big plays? And that's where I say my gut tells me that Ohio State's going to beat Texas by 10 points. I think they're going to find opportunities. They're going to hit on those opportunities. And they're going to be fine. But that Ryan Day conversation haunts me making that pick. I am terrified of them showing up and falling flat on their face like they did with Oregon.
Yeah, we'll see. Notre Dame gives up a far more yards passing the football than they do against the run. Like it worries me. And we'll obviously, I'm with you. I don't think Drew Aller's a world beater, but Notre Dame's corners are going to have a game. And if you can stop the run, and if you can force Penn State to throw the football, and I think you will. If you can force them to do that, I think you're going to be in a much better spot. And it just, the thing that worries you is, and I'll just continue to tell Notre Dame fans this, if you think that Penn State's at 13-2 is going to roll over, Penn State didn't come this far just to come this far. The problem is, obviously, Penn State hasn't played anybody.
Right.
SMU and Boise State, come on, man.
Yeah, and by the way, we're sitting here talking about Ryan Day having pressure. This is James Franklin's best look at a national championship in how long? I mean, for the first time, Michigan's down. Didn't have to run through Oregon. Like, you've got an opportunity here. So, if I'm Notre Dame, I'm gonna watch the Ohio State tape versus Penn State. That's the game I'm keying on. That's the game where I'm like, hey, Ohio State's defense is just as fast and talented as our defense. What did Penn State try to do? That's the game I'm looking at.
And Drew Aller in that game was 12 of 20, 146 with a pick. And
no tutties.
I'd remind you that the leading rusher of note, I mean, obviously Tyler Warren,
right?
But that was one trick play. But Drew Aller was the leading rusher for Penn State in that game. And I love Keytron Allen and Nick Singleton. We've talked about that on the show. They have seen one other defense like this Notre Dame defense, and it's Ohio State. And I actually think Notre Dame's a better tackling defense than Ohio State is.
Sure.
I think Notre Dame's the best tackling defense in the country, but that's just me. Let's see. Zayden S for $5. Pedo State can only beat teams that are more talented than if it comes to coaching. Ohio State looks like they are ready to be crowned. And I don't disagree with that. This Texas game is the world. This Texas game.
Just show again. Just do it again. That's all you have to do. If you do it against Texas, I'm telling you, Monday when we get back and do the show, everybody and their mom is going to be in the comments section saying Ohio State's on the fast track to win the national championship. Because, hey, you beat Oregon. I mean, look at the run they would have had to have gone on here. What is it? Tennessee, Oregon, and then Texas.
I mean that's the meek.
You're not going to question Ryan Day if he does that.
And yet Penn State, SMU, Boise State, Notre Dame, and likely Ohio State.
Yeah. So
you have faced 3 non-lethal offenses and one juggernaut in Ohio State at that point.
Dude, if we get Ohio State, Penn State for a national championship,
oh my God.
I mean, that's just,
Has the number on Ohio State, that Ohio State line with Texas moved at all? Or is it's 5. It opened at 5. It's now 5.5.
Yeah, I think that's proper.
It is now 5.5. So, and you can get it.
Where do they play that game at again?
The composite is actually 6. That'll be at the Cotton Bowl. So it'll be in Arlington. So the composite on that game is still 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see, man.
Yep.
We'll see. It is to play that game in the Cotton Bowl.
Home field advantage
At Jarrett World is a huge advantage for them. So yeah, the composite is still 6.
Yeah.
Notre Dame before the show, Notre Dame moved to 2.5. So we shall see. Penn State lucked out because they did not have to play Michigan this year. Way to be on brand.
Nice job, dude.
Good to see
Appreciate
you. Salty says Notre Dame has faced the best running QB in the country and has stopped them all. So are we talking about Army, Navy? Aller has no chance to run against them for profit. It's not for profit that I'm worried about. Drew Aller can actually throw the ball. And this mythical rise of Drew Aller has happened against SMU and Boise State. If he does it against Notre Dame, Notre Dame's going to lose a game. Because if Drew Aller carries their offense, Tyler Warren's having a big game, and the secondary is not focused on the run. They're focused on Tyler Warren. And this secondary should be able to cover Tyler Warren man over or single up. We'll see. Let's see what happens. Delaric, Notre Dame beats Penn State. I hope you're right.
Yeah.
Notre Dame -2.5. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Do I have that wrong on the graphic? I thought I changed that before the show. Where's the graphic?
The Chiron.
I'm blind. I can't. There it is right there. Penn State, Notre Dame 2.5, 46.5.
Yeah.
So we shall see. Gunnar Stockton is a dual threat. He is. Notre Dame, listen, Notre Dame is elite at the line of scrimmage and against the run. The biggest weakness in Notre Dame's defense is the secondary. That's not a secret.
Yeah,
I think we all know that.
I think Gunnar Stockton's day against Notre Dame is a testament to their defense. I do think Gunnar Stockton's a dual threat quarterback. He showed you that in that game. He did run, but he just had a really tough day against that defense.
But what did he do? What did he do that should worry those of us that care about the beloved? He threw for 234 yards in his first game ever. That's a little concerning that he had that kind of production. And a lot of that was Arian Smith. I totally understand it. Okay, great. But it's a little concerning that he threw for 234 yards. His net was 234, 252 total. Yeah. Riley Leonard was 15 and 24 for 90 yards, and he averaged 3.8 yards of completion.
What was the possession numbers like though?
Like time of possession?
Yeah, time of possession. Yeah.
Time of possession. Hello. 32 minutes essentially for Notre Dame, 28 minutes for Georgia.
Yeah. I mean,
and why is that?
Running the football.
Because Notre Dame averaged 4.2 yards of possession or a carry and ran for 154 yards.
So
that's why.
Just saying.
So this is the stupidest argument ever. Anybody arguing that Notre Dame is an elite offense needs their head examined.
Notre Dame, our mother.
I don't think you guys can tell me I'm crazy about Notre Dame. I totally disagree with you. Totally disagree. Lisa Sims, hello. If Ohio State wins the Natty, we don't care about the Michigan game any longer. Yeah, you do. Because at some point you got to
care about
Michigan.
It every year. Yeah. The problem this year is you should have beat the hell out of Michigan. That should have been like a 40-10 embarrassment.
And I know guys like Ferris and every other Michigan fan lose their mind when I say this. It had nothing to do with Michigan.
Yeah.
Ohio State showed up ill-prepared and not ready to play that game.
Bad things happen.
Didn't show up. The Cotton Bowl eyed home field for Texas. Let's just hope we don't have another bottle situation if things get ugly. I don't think you will.
Bottle situation.
Sean Rollins. Looks like the Bears have asked permission to talk to Mike McCarthy. Indeed, we did.
Yeah, Sean,
we did the
late,
first
bro.
45 minutes of the show on that, but I think it's a really big point.
Yeah.
It is, and we'll get back to that in just a minute. Gunnar Stockton was very good. He'll be special for Georgia. He wasn't able to overcome Notre Dame's defense, though. But my point is, if Drew Aller, who's more prepared, and I think a really good pre-snap quarterback, if Drew Aller has a similar game to Gunnar Stockton, who wins, Penn State or Notre Dame? Say it out loud. If Penn State has 252 passing yards,
that means
against
that
Notre
you
Dame,
stop the run.
I think Penn State wins. You've got to keep him, and I know it sounds astronomical, but you've got to keep him under 200 yards passing. And I think the magic number is 175. And you've got to force them to run the ball 2.3.
Yeah.
2.5.
Yep.
You've got to do that. Tua Halamaka's got to have a repeat performance with multiple TFLs. Multiple. You've got to hit Drew Aller. That's what you have to do. But
the kicker, obviously.
But don't hit the kicker. Let me get this right. So you got a penalty the first time when you almost blew his
Stay hard
off by running into the punter.
Yeah.
So then you did it again? Have we learned nothing? That
doesn't make you feel responsible.
Jaden, now Ohio State can't mentally deal with Michigan. How do you argue with that
conversation?
How do you even argue with that? I think you're exactly right.
Agreed.
Stymie, how many of those passing yards are fourth quarter garbage time? In the playoffs, there's no such thing as fourth quarter garbage time. There is no such thing as fourth quarter garbage time. That does not exist in the playoff.
I don't know. I'm just not that worried about him going off against Notre Dame's defense, dude. I think that Penn State's going to run the ball. And if you stop the run, that causes chaos for their offense because then he's forced to just stand back there. And if he's just standing back there, in obvious passing situations, you're going to run, obviously single high safety. And you're going to be right in your prime defense. Like I'm not that worried about Penn State's offense. I'm concerned about Notre Dame's offense and how they're going to overcome.
Yes, you should be.
You're not healthy. That's the problem. Like if Jeremiah Love was healthy and he had a fully functioning ACL in that right knee, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, we're in a great place here. We'll run the football. Everything's fine. But I just think if we're talking about Penn State's offense, we're misguided. Focus on Notre Dame's offense.
A really good friend of mine is texting me, this is why I hate Notre Dame fans. You haven't changed your opinion once. Frustratingly so. I have not changed my opinion once.
Yeah.
Riley Leonard will determine how far this team goes. His ability to throw the football beyond 7 yards. If he's going to average 3.8 yards per attempt, Notre Dame's going to lose. It's that simple. And anybody who thinks Jeremiah Love wearing a knee brace is no big deal and he's totally fine.
That's no problem. What's the big deal?
It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay. Let's mix it up a little bit.